Today we are going to see about UI and UX design. The foundation of design. There are five types of foundations designs. First are UI and UI versus UX design. Core stages of design thinking, divergent and convergent thinking, brainstorming and brainstorming, observational empathy. First, we are going to see about UI versus UX design. UI means user interface, looks and feels. UX means user experience with the product or a website. In user interface refers to the screens, buttons, toggles, icons, and other visual elements that you interact with when you using website, app, or electronic device. UI designer create the graphical portions of mobile app, websites, and design the elements that user directly interact with the user experience refer to the entire interactions you can with a product, including how you feel about the interaction. While UI can certainly have an impact on UX, the two are distinct as or the roles that designers plays. The difference between UI and UX are developing a product that the people love often requires both good UI and UX. Now we are going to see about user interface. It's about a visual designer choose a color, plans visual aesthetic, exports in mockups, graphics and layouts, what it will look like and how it will work. The UX means interaction designer charts the user pathway, plans information architecture, exports in wireframing such as workflow, the prototypes and the research such as test concepts. Take task and the responsibility of the UI, organizing a page layouts, choosing a color palettes and fonts, designing the interactive elements such as scrollers, buttons, toggles, drop downs, menus, and text fields, making high fidelity wireless and layouts and shows what the final design will look like. Working closely with the developers to convert designs into the working product. The responsibility of the UX conducting user research to identify any goals, needs, behaviors, pain points involved with the product's interactions, developing a user person, the aspects of their characters or nature as they represent to the other people based on the target customers, creating user journals map to analyze how the customer interacts with the product, building wireframes on the products, what the final products would like, perform user testing or validate the design, the decisions and identifying the problems, collaborating with stakeholders, UI designers and the developments. These are the diagrams for UI and UX, product strategy, user research, information architecture, testing and iteration, empathy, collaborating, design thinking, prototype, color therapy, typography, design patterns and interactive animations. Three types are user interface design: graphical user interface, digital interface in which a user interact with the graphical components such as icons, buttons and menus. Voice user interface allow the user to interact with the system through voice or speech commands. Menu driven interface where the user interact with the program or systems through a series of menus. These menus options or commands that you can select typically through the use of pointer, keyboard or touch screen, specifying the interaction with the systems. The key principle of the UI designs: control, consistency, comfortability. Users should be in the control of the interface. Use common elements to make your UI predictable and easy to navigate even for novice voice. Comfortability, interaction with the product, comfortably experience. Cognitive load, it is the control to mindful of bounding users with the content as the clear and the consequence. There are some to design tools such as Sketch, Adobe, Marvels, Figma, InVision Studios, Depends, etc. There are five core stages of the design thinking: empathy, define, iterate, prototype, and test. Empathize means the first stage of design thinking where the gain result in the user-centric resources. Definition: empathy is critical to problem solving, human centers, and design thinking. Depending upon our time constraint, you will gather a sustainable amount of information to next stage. The second phase of design thinking is the problems sentiment in the human centered manners. In third stages, we will ideate the third phase of the ideate where we have three stages. It will ideate the problem, brainstorm, and brainstorm on worst possible ideas. Next are our prototypes. Now, the fourth stage of the design thinking, whereas to identify the best solution, the design team will now produce a number of expensive ordered on to the next time. The last stages of the design thinking are a diversion and conversion thinking.